Hello and welcome to Eye on the Arts. I'm Liz Vinson, and today we're switching things up. I will be interviewing your usual host, Jane Frazier. Jane is the Director of Theater and Entertainment Technology here at Carroll Community College. Jane, we are so glad to have you.
Happy to be here.
So we are conducting and recording this video on Sunday, March 27th, which just happens to be World Theater Day. So a happy World Theater Day to you.
Hey, you too. Every day is theater day in my world.
So you have plenty to celebrate today because live theater has come back into your life in such a huge way. Has that been an exciting process? And what has been difficult about transitioning back to normal live theater, if we can even call it that?
Yeah, I don't know how normal it is yet. I think, ever since the school had to shut down in March of 2020, it's been a long journey for everybody, and myself and my whole theater team, everybody, involved in theater. It's really been a lot about doing a lot of research and checking in with a lot of people that I know in the business on a monthly, weekly, daily, hourly basis. And we've just been adapting and adapting and adapting. So it can be difficult, right? Everyone's been having a hard time because there's been so much change. But I think at the same time, because of my theater training, really, we're just so used to adapting. We're like, oh, we can't do that. Okay, we're going to change it. We're going to change it. We're going to change it. So I think I felt pretty fortunate because of that. Getting things ready for live audiences again for our spring show. It's just about making sure that we're staying on top of all of the protocols, safety protocols, and knowing that if we have to adapt, if we have to change something, that we can and that it's okay.
So that is an advantage in your field, being able to adapt and survive in
Yes.
any condition.
Yeah.
Yes. So you are the director of Carroll's spring play, A Doll's House. Can you tell me about this production, the process of choosing the show, how rehearsals are going, and what are you most excited about? Anything along those lines?
Well, every other spring, we try to do a piece of classic theater. It could be Shakespeare or Greek or Restoration or what have you. A Doll's House actually probably isn't my favorite Ibsen play, actually. But in script analysis last spring, I had my students read it. And as we were discussing it, I think there was just such a vibrancy for the play that everyone was really connecting to it in a lot of different ways, which I found really intriguing. And so I knew that since it was probably going to be our first show back with a live audience, the original production is something like, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. And I didn't think any of us would be ready for that. Both the amount of rehearsal time that it takes for that. And, our audiences probably aren't ready to sit in a theater for 2.5 hours yet. So I started looking for new adaptations, and there's a lot out there. And I found this great adaptation. I found an article about an adaptation by Joni Schultz. And I have a tendency to do this. I found it. And so I tried to find her email. I found the playwright's email. I emailed her and I said, hey, I'm interested in reading this. Is it published? Where can I find it? All of that. And she emailed me back and she said, it's not published yet, but here you go, and sent me the PDF. And I read it and I really loved it. It's like, if we do our job correctly, it's going to time out about 90 minutes. It still stays in the same time period, which was important to me because part of the reason why we do a classic is so that our actors get experience with all different genres, all different styles of theater, and the historical accuracy is something that, is important to me. But there's elements of modern things within this script, both some of the language has been modernized, And we played with that on the production team. So you'll see a little bit of modern elements within the set design, ever so slightly. And so it was just, it was something that I found really feasible. I liked how it clipped along. I think that's important for modern audiences, but that it was still set in, 1879. And as a happy plus, because it was already chosen before this came out, but if those who are watching the Gilded Age on HBO, it's similar, it's a little later, and it's 1885, and it's in America versus Norway. And they're they have a lot more money than Nora and Torvald do, but it's similar in style to that. So I felt like it was the right time to do the show. And I don't know, as you know, Liz, because you're in it, we just finished doing what I call rough blocking. And so it's not even the blocking or the movement patterns aren't even totally established yet, right? But I'm excited. There's already an energy. There's already connections happening within the cast, both within like the characters and just, I think, you all as a team. And that's really exciting to watch and see take place. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So have you been in contact with Joni Schultz throughout the process?
Not throughout the process, early on, because since it wasn't published, usually you have to obtain the rights and royalties, and it's through like a publishing company that the playwright has chosen or what have you. And so when I decided I wanted to go ahead and direct it, I asked her what her thoughts were on that pricing, and she wasn't really sure. So I actually sent her a lot of different things of what our contracts look like, and gave her a few websites to look at. And then she also connected with some of her playwriting friends who do have published work. And we kind of came up with a price. She gave us a very, very reasonable price. And we connected that way. And she did, offer, we're not exactly sure. We might have her come in for a little Zoom session with us. We're not sure yet. I'm not going to promise. I won't promise that. Coordination and scheduling. But not too much. I really am a director who I really like to embed myself within the script. So if I'm directing something that's really well known, I don't really want to look at those. Maybe I look at those once, but I really want to take what is given to us on the page, and then we make it our version of what's on the page. So I haven't really talked to her a whole lot.
So you have really taken charge from start to finish on doing this adaptation. And that's really cool.
Well, I mean, that's what a director does. I mean, sometimes you get to choose. It depends on where you're directing, right? But here, I always ask my team, the theater team, what they think should be on the season. And I do ask my students what they want on the season. We can't do everything that everybody wants, right? And it has to be appropriate for us and for who I have available to cast, all of that. There's a lot of different things that go into that decision making, but and then we obtain the rights, and then it's either me directing or we have guest directors as well. So yeah.
Awesome. So speaking of that, can you tell me about your background and training as an actor and as a director?
Yeah. I don't know where to start. I've acted since I was 5. I was just really fortunate. I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's a much bigger city than here in Westminster. It was about 250,000 people, and Westminster has about 18,000, I think. So there was, but the arts were really important, and not just theater, but also the art world and music scene, and it's thriving in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I started a Saturday morning program at my church. They had a theater in the basement of my church. I mean, we should have all known. But they had Saturday morning classes, and it was like open to anybody. You didn't have to be a member of the church. You didn't have to be Lutheran. You didn't have to be Christian. You could just, anybody who wanted to take it could take it for free. They had drama for like an hour, and then we took choir for an hour. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And I did that all through high school, really. I think in like 7th grade, it switches to Wednesday nights or whatever, but we have, shows that we would produce through that. And then obviously like the Christmas pageant was the big thing. And sometimes we even had shows like that anybody in the congregation could audition for. That wasn't all the time, but we did a production, I remember, of Our Town, and it was like all ages from the congregation. And it was really just a very welcoming space to be in. And my middle school was a really big deal. And then we also have the Fort Wayne Youth Theater, and it was one of the most prominent children's theaters really in the nation. It's still going, it's strong. And they have classes that you can take, but then they also produce shows for young audiences. And usually the whole cast is a young age, is in like high school, middle school, or elementary school. Sometimes they have adult roles played by adults within the community. And so I got a lot of experience with that. And of course, within my middle school, my high school programs. And then we have like 5 major community theaters. And when I say major, I mean, it's not like, hey kids, let's put on a show. It's like they put money into it and time and effort. And really some amazing shows and some amazing experiences that I got. But my mom used to tell the story that I guess when I was 12, I told her that I was going to be an actor. And I think she was a little concerned, but my parents were so supportive of it. They love the arts. My mom did Gilbert and Sullivan shows at University of Michigan, and my grandma, her mom, was in community theater. So it was definitely a part of our world and a part of our lives. And my training, I have a very diverse undergrad experience. I went to a traditional 4-year school right out of college, and I didn't like it. And a friend of mine had gone to AMDA in New York, American Musical and Dramatic Academy. And she's like, I think you would really like the program. It's a conservatory training. So you just get a certificate. You don't get a degree. But I tried it out. I got a great scholarship, and I went to New York for a year, and I loved it. But I kind of went through a big milestone while I was there, and I call it my mini midlife crisis, even though I was 20. And I decided that I really felt, I think I need that BA degree. I really think I need that BA degree. The stability of it. I didn't see myself, putting myself on the line every day as my livelihood. And for people who don't know, I mean, actors, you probably spend about 85% of your time just auditioning. That's it. That's what you're doing. And I think I just didn't really want that, but I knew theater had to be a part of my life. So I came back to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they had an extension campus of Purdue University. So the main Purdue University campus is in West Lafayette, and one of their extension campuses was in Fort Wayne. And I knew they had a great program. I had actually done 2 shows with them in the summer before all of that. And so I majored in theater there. And so I did end up spending 4 years there. But 6 years, 3 schools for my undergrad. I think people were a little concerned, but you know what? I've always done things my own way, and I've always done things backwards. I'm like, I go with my gut, and it's pretty much served me very well. So, that's the bulk of my training. When I graduated, everyone was telling me grad school, and I was like, no, I'm done with school. And I started teaching right away in a middle school. I taught drama classes all day long. It was great. But I didn't really see myself teaching middle school students the rest of my life. It takes a certain energy, Liz, as you know, to teach the young ones. And I saw myself, I was more on the energy level of my college students. And I was able to, my college needed somebody a year after that, needed somebody to teach part-time the beginning acting class. And so they asked me to do it, and I did it. I had taught at Fort Wayne Youth Theater. I didn't say that. I started that my junior year at Purdue Fort Wayne. And I really loved teaching. And when I started teaching at the college level, I went, oh my gosh, I think this is better than acting. And I loved it. And I did a lot of arts administration work. There was a part-time job, an assistant to the dean of the School of Visual and Performing Arts. And I learned so much about arts administration there. I ran what was called the Community Arts Academy. So it offered classes in art and music and theater and private lessons for, K through 12th grade. And I learned how to organize that and how to set prices for that. I learned how to write grants with my boss, Dean Ben Christie at that time. And I love that side of it too. And I thought, I did that for about 5 years. And I went, I think I'm going to get my MFA in this. I think I want to teach. I think that's what I want to do. And I found Virginia Commonwealth University. They had a theater pedagogy program, which was perfect for me because so many acting programs they're wonderful programs, but they're really setting you up just to act. And so if you want to teach, they don't really want you there, a lot of them. And I knew I wanted to teach. So I found this program and I got in, and I learned so much more. And I learned a lot about directing. I never really had seen myself as a director really until college. So I took, directing classes and acting classes, but we had studio classes set up kind of like, a BFA class would be, but we also took pedagogy and historiography and semiotics and theater history. And we really got this wide, world of what it would mean to go and teach in our field. And so it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And I graduated, and I was adjuncting and still doing theater all around. I was back in Indiana for a time, and my first full-time gig was down at Vincennes University in 2013, and it's a community college actually. And community colleges in Indiana aren't as rampant as they are here in Maryland. It's a totally different system. In fact, Vincennes is probably one of the only community colleges that had a liberal arts education. The rest in Indiana are really like trade schools, which are great, but not what I wanted. And so when I got there and I was revamping the program and working with amazing students from, not just our county, but from the whole state of Indiana and Illinois. A lot of students from Indianapolis and Chicago would go there because it was a residential campus too. So they actually had dorms and everything. Oh. And after my first year, I went, oh my gosh, I love this. I don't know. I don't understand why people don't go to community college their first 2 years. I was like, if I had known about that, and I thought, everything that I had done in undergrad, like totally was perfect training for teaching and running a theater program at a community college. And nobody could have planned that out for me. I just went with my gut, and it definitely has served me well. And I always tell my students, go with your gut, go with your passion, because there's so many opportunities out there in theater that we don't think about, right? Or people get scared, like, I don't want my child majoring in theater. What are they going to do? Well, there's actually a lot they can do. and they're actually going to learn a lot of soft skills and how to adapt in lots of different situations. But I think, every job that exists in the world, there's some level of stress to it, right? So if you're doing what you're passionate about and what you love doing, it's so much better. It's so much better. You already have an innate way of handling and dealing with the stress or the pressure. So I really went, oh my gosh, this is exactly where I need to be. But I was working really long hours, and a lot of us in the theater are used to working long hours, but I was working about an 80-hour work week, and I was burned out. And I was burned out probably after that first year, but I stayed, and I wanted to grow the program down there. And I wanted to get back to the East Coast. And so I started looking, and I found the job here at Carroll, and I interviewed and got it. And I'm so glad I made the decision to come here. I'm still working long hours, but not 80 hours a week. It's a much better situation for me. And I love it. I get to do, all of the things I love to do. I get to do some of the arts administration work. I get to do the teaching, and I love it. So, yeah.
It's amazing. You had, throughout your training and throughout your career, so many aha moments where things just really fell into place for you.
Yes, definitely.
So in your time since becoming a professor here at Carroll Community College, what has been your proudest moment?
Proudest. It's so difficult. That's so difficult. There's been many. I think, we talk about every time you're in a show or direct a show or producing a show, like you're like giving birth, right? So it's like, I can't say that one baby is better than the other baby or whatever, I have certain styles or certain genres that I like better than others or whatever. But I think when I see students either in the classroom or on the stage is kind of our lab, right? It's like our science lab, the stage. And I think when they make those aha moments, and I'm gonna get emotional, sorry. But when they realize that they can do something that they never thought they could do, or that they never knew existed, and it's like, yes, and I think that's amazing to watch and to be a part of, and to experience and explore. And when you think of, when it comes to like opening night, and you think of where you started and like how much you have accomplished, and not you just as one person, but like you're a team, and you're building, and it's that on that process every day. And when you see that, I think it's amazing, and live theater. I mean, there is nothing like it. And this, you've heard me say this because you've taken some of my classes, but it's, it's the original 3D art form, right? And you're in the same space as the actors, and you're sharing this energy, and you're sharing the same air, which is why during COVID, we have to be very, cautious with things, right? We have very good filter systems now. But the audience is actually adding so much to the performance. And I don't think audiences realize that all the time, but there's this kind of ebb and flow of energy back and forth. And like you could see the show every single performance, and it's going to be a little different. And every time you go, you're experiencing a part of history, and it's never going to be the same, because, hopefully the actors are doing the right blocking or whatever, but the audience members are going to be different, and they're going to, maybe even if they come to see it more than once, maybe they're sitting in a different area of the theater, but it's always a different, there's this communal excuse me, experience as an audience member. And so it's just, that's exciting.
Yes.
It's so different from sitting in a movie theater or watching something, when you're at home. It's a completely different situation. And so I just love it. I just love it. I don't know why more people don't go see theater. I really don't know. I cannot comprehend that. I think, it can be a financial thing. I mean, if you think like New York and like Broadway, it's expensive, right? Mm-hmm. And we're seeing more and more ways that theater is becoming accessible to people, but it's still expensive. But what I say, we're doing something very new this year with A Doll's House. Before the pandemic, our ticket prices, depending on if it was a play or a musical, were like $10, $15 a piece, mm-hmm. which still isn't that much. But that still could be not accessible to some people, right? Mm-hmm. And then during the pandemic, we were, filming our shows. We did a lot of devised work, and then we offered that for free for people, just, hey, have an escape here, right? And so this show, since we're bringing audiences back, we're just making all the tickets just $5. So it's less than a movie. and you get like so much more. I mean,
absolutely.
You might not get the star power, right? But and you get to experience people like now, who knows, they could become famous, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know. And you got to watch it for $5. And I'll say that, even if the $5 isn't accessible to someone, I will say this, if people want to see the show and they don't have the $5, they should contact me and we will figure out a way for them to get to see the show. Mm-hmm. So it's important.
So you've talked a little bit about trusting your gut, but do you have any other words of wisdom for students pursuing theater or the arts in general?
Take the opportunities when they come to you and look for the opportunities. They don't always just land in your lap. Sometimes you have to do some hustle work, right? To find those items, to do what you need to do. And, but there's so much out there, that I don't think everyone is aware of. And, I've created jobs for myself too in the theater. You really have to be motivated to do that. And if you feel like maybe you aren't somebody who's motivated to do that, I would say, come talk to me. I will find how to your motivation. And everybody should start here at Carroll.
Yes.
I just don't know why sorry, but to go back on that, but I don't understand. It's like, we have to spend so much money in the theater world, right? Like on headshots and agents and managers and things like that. And so like, come here for the first 2 years, you're going to save a whole bunch of money. We're going to prep you for auditions. You could go, then you can go to a BFA or a BA or a conservatory training, or go right into the field, depending on what's right for you. And because I've had all of those experiences, I can help you, craft kind of your journey or your way. And I do want to say, for those people that maybe are watching this that aren't sure if they should major in theater or the arts, art or music, if you're passionate about it, then you should. You should do life is too short, right? You should do what you're passionate about. And if you think that there's no way you could actually make a living doing that, I'm going to say you're wrong. There is. You just have to know how to look for the opportunities and know how to take the opportunities when they're given to you.
Absolutely. Could not have said it better myself. Jane, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Before we go, I want to mention a couple of arts events happening at the college. So for the visual arts, we have the spring 2022 exhibitions. That is the biennial faculty exhibition. That is now through May 28th in the gallery in the Stott Center. We also have Dreaming in Color selections from the O'Connor collection. Now through May 13th in the Babylon Great Hall, there will be a cocktail reception and fundraising auction on May 13th, 5 to 7:30 p.m. The auction will be at 6 p.m. The galleries are on Facebook. Follow Carroll CC Galleries for updates. That is www.facebook.com/Carroll CC Galleries. As for music, we have the Troy King Guitar Concert and Workshop. The workshop will be Thursday, April 28th, 6 o'clock p.m., live from the PNC Rehearsal Hall. That is in room T404, and that is free. And the concert will be Saturday, April 30th. That is 3:30 p.m., live and live streamed from the PNC Rehearsal Hall. That is in room T404. That is also free. As for student ensembles, we have the Westminster Symphony Orchestra. That is with director Linda Kirkpatrick and assistant director Cindy Rosenberg. That is Saturday, April 30th at 3 o'clock p.m., live from McDaniel College at the WMC Alumni Hall. That is free. There is the Vocal Chamber Ensemble directed by Jamie Balter. That is Monday, May 9th at 7 o'clock p.m. That is a live streamed event and it is free. We also have our Rock and Roll Ensemble directed by John Knoll. That is Wednesday, May 11th at 7 o'clock p.m. live and live streamed from the theater in the Scott Center. That is free. And we have our Jazz Combo directed by Tim Jenkins, Friday, May 13th at 7 o'clock p.m. live and live streamed from the theater in the Scott Center, and that is free. Student recitals. Our next student recital is Wednesday, April 13th at 1 o'clock p.m. live and live streamed from the theater in the Scott Center, and that is free. And as for theater, we have A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, adapted by Joni Schultz, directed by Jane Frazier, April 28th, 29th, and 30th at 7:30 p.m. and May 1st at 2 o'clock p.m. $5 tickets. That is in the theater in the Scott Center. And that should be all.